to me.
Game over for you.
I'm Jake Morrison, 37, and I work as a data compliance analyst at Tech Law Solutions, a legal AI startup that's been crushing it in the Silicon Valley scene. We build machine learning tools that help law firms analyze contracts faster than humanly possible and spot compliance issues before they become federal nightmares. My equity stake is real money, not monopoly dollars. And I've diversified my portfolio across solid investments, including some Blackstone Industries stock and positions in smaller tech companies. My wife, Emma, kept her maiden name, Emma Walsh, because of brand consistency or whatever. She's 32, smart as hell, did 2 years of law school before switching to marketing because litigation wasn't her thing. Now she runs brand partnerships and organizes these networking panels where big law partners discuss legal innovation while drinking wine that costs more than most people's rent. She's genuinely good at making managing partners feel like visionary disruptors instead of expensive middlemen. We rent this decent place on the Upper West Side. 2 bedrooms, good light. The kind of apartment that says we're successful without being obnoxious. I've been saving every penny for a down payment because paying some trust fund kid's mortgage through rent drives my analyst brain crazy. The math on NYC real estate is insane, but that's the game if you want to live where deals happen. Emma's parents, Patricia and Robert Walsh, love the appearance of success more than actual success. They throw rooftop parties in rented spaces, always making sure there's a photo backdrop and enough champagne to make everyone forget they're essentially paying to network with other people who are also paying to network. They drop names of clients they've never met and board members they've been in the same room with exactly once. Our CEO, Marcus Stone, is the public face of Tech Law Solutions, gets profiled in TechCrunch and quoted on CNBC about legal technology's future. He closed our Series B funding with smooth talking that makes investors forget to read fine print. Marcus loves saying, "We're not a law firm, we're the future," at every conference while wearing sneakers that cost more than most people's car payments. The guy has never met a disruption metaphor he didn't want to marry. I used to respect Marcus. He hired me when we were still in a WeWork space, recognized my compliance track record, and gave me equity plus autonomy to build something real. But what I didn't know was that Marcus had been studying my marriage like a target acquisition. While I focused on machine learning models and risk frameworks, he was running due diligence on my personal life, identifying vulnerabilities and planning his strategy. Everything looked perfect on paper. My equity was vesting. Revenue growth was sustainable. Compliance frameworks were solid. Emma seemed happy. Her parents seemed harmless. Marcus seemed like a CEO who understood real innovation. Looking back, I missed all the warning signs. The late-night Slack messages that made Emma laugh differently than my jokes ever did. Her sudden fluency in corporate buzzwords at dinner, talking about runway and market positioning like she'd been studying a new language. The tempo change wasn't gradual. It was like watching a hostile takeover in slow motion. Emma's client dinners multiplied exponentially. Suddenly, she had 3 meetings weekly at restaurants charging $50 for appetizers they called farm-to-table innovation. Before, maybe 1 dinner monthly with some managing partner's wife discussing our latest features over overpriced wine. Now it was Tuesday at Le Bernardin, Thursday at 11 Madison Park, Saturday at some pop-up requiring 3-month reservations. It's relationship building, she explained when I questioned why marketing strategy required $400 tasting menus. These partners expect sophistication. You can't just send PowerPoints and expect contracts. Fair enough. Legal industry runs on relationships and prestige signaling. But then she started quoting Marcus at home like he was business scripture requiring daily study. Every conversation circled back to whatever brilliant insight our CEO shared at the latest board meeting, usually involving buzzwords like runway, Series B, narrative, acquisition offers, and private equity circling. Living with someone possessed by a McKinsey consultant's ghost. Marcus says we need bigger thinking about market positioning, she'd tell me over breakfast, scrolling Slack like morning news. He thinks we're undervaluing our data assets for acquisition discussions. I nodded, sipping coffee, wondering when my wife became an expert on enterprise software valuations. 2 months earlier, she thought Series B funding happened to vitamin supplements. Midnight texts started around the same time. Emma's phone buzzing at 11:30, 12:15, 1 a.m., and she'd actually laugh out loud, before typing 10-minute responses. When I asked who texted past midnight, she waved it off as urgent client questions requiring immediate emoji responses that couldn't wait until business hours. She started flipping her phone face down whenever I entered rooms, Classic cheating behavior so unoriginal, I felt insulted by the lack of creativity. The woman who used to leave her phone unlocked on kitchen counters while showering suddenly treated it like state secrets and nuclear launch codes. Meanwhile, I was shipping machine learning models, crushing every benchmark we'd set. Our contract analysis algorithm identifies potential compliance violations with 97.3% accuracy, which sounds boring until you realize it saves law firms millions in regulatory fines. We're processing contracts for 3 of Manhattan's top 10 law firms with client retention rates most SaaS companies dream about. The big victory came landing partnership with Sterling and Associates, one of those white shoe firms charging more per hour than most people make monthly. It validated everything we'd built. Proof our technology could compete with legacy systems running the legal industry since the Stone Age. We celebrated with a launch event at the Soho venue, normally charging $48,000 for single evenings, which I negotiated down to $31,000. The event had everything you'd expect from legal tech startups trying to impress Manhattan law firms. Raw bar costing more than my first car, open bar with sommelier-selected wines, enough flowers to make it look like someone important died, and we're celebrating their IPO afterlife. Marcus gave his speech about transforming legal landscapes through AI and machine learning. Sterling Partners nodded like he was revealing universal secrets instead of explaining why computers read contracts better than first-year associates. He called me on stage to discuss technical innovation behind our platform, and I gave my usual spiel about algorithmic accuracy and regulatory compliance. Marcus hugged me afterward like his favorite nephew graduating Harvard Business School, all backslapping and couldn't have done it without Jake's incredible data work. The crowd applauded, investors smiled, and for 5 minutes I remembered why I like working in tech. But the whole time, I watched Emma watch Marcus like he was the only person worth attention. She wasn't looking at investors, law firm partners, or even overpriced catering signaling our success. She stared at our CEO with focused attention usually reserved for quarterly earnings calls and Series A presentations, the look someone gives when calculating potential ROI, not when proud of their husband's achievements. At family dinners with Patricia and Robert, conversations shifted quickly to Marcus Stone and his accomplishments. His board meetings became dinner entertainment. Rumored acquisition offers got analyzed like stock picks. His COO, Sarah Kim, got discussed like Patricia's personal friend, instead of someone she'd met once at a holiday party. "He's so forward-thinking," Patricia said, cutting salmon with surgical precision. "Most CEOs in legal tech just replicate existing processes. Marcus understands innovation requires completely reimagining how law firms operate." Robert nodded sagely like he'd been analyzing legal technology markets for decades, instead of running a boutique accounting firm still using 2015 spreadsheets. I felt like an employee at my own dinner table, invited to family meetings but not part of strategic planning. I should have recognized the pattern earlier, but I was too busy building, too focused on technical challenges, too confident that marriage was like good code. Build it right once and it runs reliably without constant debugging. Turns out, I was wrong about that too. Sometimes your gut knows things before your brain catches up. That nagging sense I needed to document whatever was happening while traveling for work. The Corporate Legal Operations Conference in Chicago. 3 days of lawyers and compliance officers pretending automation solves fundamentally human judgment problems. Before leaving for O'Hare, I made a decision that would horrify anyone believing in trust and healthy marriage communication. I installed a discreet camera in our living room, just home security for package thieves and break-ins. Upper-middle-class Manhattan residents install these when realizing doormen can't prevent crime, just witness it afterward. I also activated our smart home's built-in microphone array, usually listening for commands like play music and turn off lights. The conference was mind-numbingly predictable. Day 1 featured panels about leveraging AI for contract intelligence, where speakers used buzzwords like transformative insights without explaining what those terms meant. Between sessions, I networked with Fortune 500 compliance officers complaining about budgets while planning 6-figure platform purchases for tasks their paralegals could handle faster. During day 2 lunch, my phone buzzed with motion alerts. My stomach dropped like watching stock prices during market corrections, but I maintained professional composure opening the app under the table. Timestamp read 12:47 p.m. Central, 1:47 p.m. New York time, middle of Tuesday afternoon when Emma should theoretically be at tech law offices working on marketing campaigns justifying her increasing client dinners. Instead, I watched her walk into our living room laughing at something someone said off camera. She wore the black dress usually saved for important meetings, costs more than my monthly Tesla payment, makes her look like she stepped off a legal industry magazine cover. Hair professionally blown out, carrying 2 wine glasses even though it was barely afternoon, and she'd claimed too busy for lunch when I texted from Chicago. Then Marcus Stone followed her into frame, and my world shifted like watching hostile takeover announcements tank stock prices in real time. He wasn't wearing his usual startup uniform of jeans and blazer. Instead, expensive casual shirt, probably costing more than most people spend on groceries, the kind venture capitalists wear signaling wealth without looking like traditional executives. He took a wine glass, said something making Emma laugh again, then they kissed like a decision made weeks ago instead of spontaneous passion. I watched my marriage end through smartphone screens in a hotel restaurant full of corporate lawyers, and the most surreal part was not being surprised. Like watching quarterly earnings confirm projections you hoped were wrong but suspected were accurate. Audio quality wasn't perfect, but clear enough capturing important conversation parts. Marcus mentioned something about after Series C closes and when we go public. While Emma responded with timeline and market positioning questions, she definitely didn't learn from marketing textbooks. They discussed board meetings and shareholder expectations with casual familiarity of people who'd covered these topics multiple times. That evening, after emerging legal technology trends panels, somehow avoiding discussing actual trends, I reviewed more apartment footage. Patricia Walsh appeared around 6 p.m. for regular coaching sessions I never knew existed. Audio captured her walking Emma through narrative development and stakeholder management, using corporate buzzwords discussing what sounded like relationship transition planning. "Think about this strategically," Patricia said, settling into the chair I usually occupied working from home. "Jake's a good person, but he's not the growth opportunity here. Marcus represents completely different trajectory. Board connections, acquisition potential, the kind of network opening doors you didn't know existed." She paused, sipping wine I apparently paid for. "This isn't about being cruel. It's about recognizing maturity and making adult decisions about your future." I listened as my mother-in-law spoke about my marriage like it was a lagging stock that needed rebalancing. That's when I realized I'd been looking at it all wrong. I kept thinking about trust and betrayal when I should have been thinking about contracts and compliance. What felt like personal hurt was really a textbook case of corporate governance failure that could expose tech law solutions to regulators and angry shareholders. I opened the employee handbook and read sections I'd barely noticed before: conflict of interest rules, supervisor-subordinate dating policies, HR reporting requirements, and blackout periods during acquisition talks. Any lawyer knows a CEO sleeping with a direct report isn't just an HR mess. It's a board-level risk that can spark SEC probes and scare off potential buyers. When I closed the laptop, I wasn't a betrayed husband anymore. I was a compliance officer who'd spotted a serious threat to shareholder value. I knew exactly what to do. First step, hire counsel who understood both securities law and family law, a rare combo in Manhattan. After a few calls, I found Rebecca Santos, a partner at Chen & Associates, with a reputation for treating NDAs like breakfast and winning high-stakes divorces for corporate executives. Her office took up half a midtown floor with gold-tone elevator buttons and lobby art worth more than most annual salaries. She charged $1,200 an hour and earned it by running legal strategy like a military campaign, precise, forceful, and perfectly timed. "Tell me about your post-nuptial agreement," she said, after I laid out the story in the calm tone of a quarterly report. I slid a copy across her polished desk, organized to perfection. She read for 20 minutes, then smiled like a lawyer who just found a hidden clause. "You funded her wellness startup?" she asked, pointing to a detail I'd nearly forgotten. 2 years back, Emma convinced me to invest $75,000 in a friend's meditation app. It lasted 18 months and collapsed like most revenue-free startups. To protect our assets, Emma had signed a post-nup with standard language on misconduct. "Section 12 covers infidelity," Rebecca said. "Any affair means an immediate transfer of designated marital assets to the innocent spouse, your house fund, and most joint investments." She signed away roughly $400,000 if she cheated. Did she know? I remembered Emma laughing when I showed her that clause, calling it paranoid and unnecessary, and signing every page like she was giving autographs. At the time, I thought of it as insurance, redundant until it isn't. With Rebecca handling legal strategy, I turned to finances. I moved paychecks to new accounts only I could access, set up a trust for future property buys, and removed Emma and her parents from every shared account they'd enjoyed for years. The family phone plan Robert bragged about paying for, gone. The Amex card covering Patricia's business lunches, closed. Car insurance for their BMW, they could call their own agent. I cataloged evidence like a compliance audit, Slack timestamps, mismatched expense reports, company card charges that didn't fit real business trips, and that 2-hour marketing workshop in a private jet lounge that somehow needed 30,000 feet of altitude. My college friend David Martinez, now at Goldman Sachs, introduced me to Stephen Liu at Summit Ridge Ventures, an investor in legal tech. Over coffee in a high-rise conference room with furniture worth more than my car, I outlined the situation without naming names. CEO misconduct, governance risk, shareholder exposure. If a CEO crosses compliance lines with a subordinate, the board has a duty to act, Stephen said, sipping coffee that cost more than most lunches, especially before an acquisition, when due diligence examines every corner of management behavior. He then introduced me to Maria Rodriguez of Pinnacle Capital, a private equity partner who specializes in growth stage legal tech. Over lunch, where appetizers cost more than a week of groceries, she nodded. Governance issues eliminate deals, she said. We've walked away from acquisitions because the leadership couldn't prove clean records. Meanwhile, I brought in Carlos Rodriguez, a private investigator Rebecca recommended for executive misconduct cases. His office looked like a detective movie set, but his resume included exposing fake investor reports and tracing hidden income for everyone from compliance teams to federal agents. Hotel surveillance is easier than people think, Carlos explained in our first meeting, reviewing his checklist of travel logs and expense data. Most business hotels keep security footage for 90 days, and corporate card records give exact timestamps to match. Within a few weeks, Carlos handed me early reports that read like case studies in corporate misconduct. Marcus Stone had used TechLaw's travel accounts to book hotel rooms when no real business meetings existed. Company credit cards covered meals, rides, and client events that matched Emma's so-called marketing panels and workshops. The paper trail was obvious. Any first-year associate could build a case for misuse of company funds and breaches of fiduciary duty. I was creating evidence files that would impress securities lawyers, documenting every violation with the precision I used to debug code. What surprised me most was the lack of anger. No hurt, no betrayal, just focus. Cold, methodical focus. It felt like solving a complex bug with the same calm logic I bring to machine learning audits. Emma and Marcus never understood compliance. It isn't about revenge. It's about risk control and making sure systems work as designed. When people break rules and betray trust, you don't get emotional. You enforce the contracts and let the agreed consequences unfold. Turning 37 in Manhattan while your marriage falls apart and your CEO breaks securities laws is a strange kind of poetry. Not beautiful, more like dry verses written by compliance officers who read too many breach reports and forgot about therapy. The Walsh family hosted a rooftop party downtown that screamed wealth without proof. A jazz quartet charged more per hour than most attorneys. Logo walls promoted charities that were likely just tax write-offs. The guest list looked like a networking mixer for people chasing money they hadn't earned. Tech law coworkers, law partners Emma knew, Patricia's book club friends who spent more on wine than on rent, and Robert's accounting clients eager to look like savvy investors. Everyone drank 25-year Macallan like it was beer. Impressive only because it drained my accounts while guests treated single malt as a personality. Emma looked stunning in a designer dress worth a Tesla payment, smiling with polished charm after months of researching how to exit our marriage. Marcus showed up late, dressed in expensive casual clothes that whispered money without the stiff suit. In minutes, he was surrounded by guests eager to hear about TechLaw's funding and acquisition rumors. I watched him hold court, sipping my scotch, basking in praise for his vision while breaking corporate governance rules and flirting with SEC violations. Meanwhile, I stood off to the side with evidence strong enough to start an investigation, pretending to enjoy a party that celebrated my personal and professional collapse. Patricia approached around 9:30, wearing the kind of fixed smile VCs use when they're about to dilute your equity. "Jake, honey, we need to talk," she said, a polite way of announcing I was about to be fired from my own marriage. That was my breaking point. I'd spent weeks gathering evidence, restructuring assets, and hiring lawyers. The only thing left was to stop pretending. I walked toward the center of the party where Emma laughed at something Marcus said, holding wine I'd bought and wearing jewelry we'd paid for together. Conversations slowed. Maybe they sensed the shift. Hey everyone, I said, raising my glass like I was opening a shareholder meeting. Thanks for coming to celebrate my 37th birthday. It means a lot to have you all here. I locked eyes with key players. I also need to say something. Emma, I know about you and Marcus. The jazz kept playing, but everything else stopped. Glasses froze midair. Patricia's smile vanished like a stock price during a crash. Patricia was the first to recover, using the smooth tone of a PR pro handling a scandal. Jake, you need to be mature about this, she said, like lecturing an intern. Emma and Marcus are soulmates. You should be happy for them. Robert nodded, joining the chorus. Don't be selfish, Jake. They're truly happy together. Sometimes you need to put others first. He said this while drinking my scotch at a party funded by my savings. I realized then they'd planned this intervention for weeks. This wasn't spontaneous. It was a carefully managed rollout. You're right, I said, setting down my glass. I should be happy for them. In fact, I am. I pulled 3 thick envelopes from my jacket, prepared earlier by Rebecca's office, each sealed and labeled with perfect corporate formality. So happy, in fact, that I brought gifts. I handed one to Emma, one to Patricia, and one to Robert, like signing acquisition papers. These explain exactly how mature and generous I plan to be about this. I straightened my suit, raised my glass one last time, and spoke the lines I'd practiced for weeks. Enjoy the night, and thanks for making my 37th birthday unforgettable. Then I walked to the elevator, leaving behind the music, the scotch, and the sound of 3 people opening envelopes that would change everything. By 8 a.m. the morning after the party, word shot through TechLaw's Slack faster than market rumors. I watched governance protocols kick in like a well-built system spotting a breach. COO Sarah Kim set a 10 a.m. emergency board meeting, startup code for drop everything, potential SEC trouble that could sink Series C. Sarah treated compliance like scripture and saw CEO misconduct as sacrilege that eliminates shareholder value. She'd guided 3 firms through IPOs and knew how executive affairs can wreck valuations. The board met in a glass-walled conference room with a table worth more than most salaries. I wasn't invited, but leaks came quick. Engineers said independent directors grilled management about governance failures and liability risk. Outside counsel launched an internal probe. Lawyer talk for documenting every violation so federal investigators can't find holes. HR Chief Jennifer Park put Emma on administrative leave. Corporate for suspended while they tally the damage from her choices. Marcus sent a careful memo about stepping back to focus on family, a classic PR move to make a forced exit look voluntary. By lunch, Summit Ridge Ventures demanded an independent board chair, showing investors were serious about fixing oversight. Pinnacle Capital emailed me about forming a minority shareholder block to push for operational changes if the board stayed weak. I asked for the obvious, a clean company with transparent governance and leadership that could survive SEC scrutiny. Carlos delivered encrypted drives loaded with damning proof, time-stamped hotel footage, private jet manifests matched to corporate card charges, calendar notes labeled brand synergy off-sites that were anything but business. Rebecca turned it all into a meticulous timeline. Dates, money trails, contract breaches, each item cross-checked with handbook rules, governance codes, and securities regulations the board had sworn to uphold. Sarah's finance team audited Emma's system logins against her claimed client meetings. They found patterns of time theft and resource misuse, making compliance staff wonder if she did any real work or just used her role to date a senior exec. Board members received a memo that said it all. Employee used company systems, credit cards, and travel budgets for personal activity while scheduled for marketing and client work. At 4:17 p.m., HR emailed, "Thank you for reporting these concerns through proper channels. We will investigate under established policies to protect all stakeholders." That single line told me everything. They were serious and recognized the shareholder risk, and it confirmed I'd followed whistleblower rules. By day's end, the rumor mill roared. Emma's marketing staff updated LinkedIn profiles and called recruiters. Sales reassured clients that leadership changes wouldn't slow product plans. Corp Dev reported 2 acquisition talks on hold until the governance mess cleared. The Hart family attacked the scandal like a PR agency handling a crisis. Slick talking points, staged statements, media spins to reshape public opinion. Patricia led the effort like a VC comms pro smoothing over a federal probe. Jake's just jealous, Patricia told anyone, even family court mediators. He can't handle Emma finding someone more successful and aligned with her growth. Leonard added a money angle for the accountants. Jake's controlling and bitter, using money as a weapon because he can't match Marcus's charm or vision. The best part of amateur PR? They overshare while trying to steer the story. They forgot the first litigation rule. Every word can be logged and used to prove facts, not feelings. That's where Carlos earned his pay. While the Walshes played PR games, he did digital forensics worthy of top security teams. Their private family chat was auto-backed to the cloud, saving even deleted messages. The recovered logs read like an internal crisis management plan. Patricia coached Emma on narrative development, talking about the breakup like a merger needing stakeholder communication. Remember, this isn't about being cruel to Jake, Patricia wrote 3 days before my birthday. It's about recognizing different levels of maturity and choosing a future. Marcus offers growth Jake can't. The chats also showed Patricia asking junior lawyers about common law partnership tactics to give Emma claims on Marcus's assets if she moved in before a formal divorce, basically timing infidelity for financial gain. Leonard chimed in with numbers that sounded like an investment memo. Marcus's equity is worth 10 times Jake's portfolio, and his board ties could set Emma up for life. The worst revelation? They planned the birthday confrontation like a corporate crisis drill, even picking the perfect moment to limit my chance to cause unnecessary drama during their staged ambush. When we filed the chat logs in family court, Rebecca included them as preserved evidence. She noted that the Walsh family tried to erase messages after realizing they might matter in court. Those deletion attempts actually helped us, proving they knew they were guilty and were trying to block discovery. Family court felt like a broken board meeting where everyone was protecting their own stake. Emma's lawyer argued, not enough evidence, a tactic that works better in criminal cases than in a family case with infidelity clauses and breach of contract terms. Rebecca countered with tight, organized proof that made the other lawyer rethink their career. Security video from a hotel lobby showed Emma and Marcus entering elevators during supposed client meetings. Corporate travel records matched their private calendars. Expense reports proved company money paid for their relationship, breaking work agreements. The knockout punch came from the Grand Meridian Hotel's business center. Video showed Marcus promising Emma an executive job and equity while charging the whole talk to TechLaw's partner account. A CEO using company funds to make personal promises, violating governance rules, and risking SEC action. The defendant signed post-nuptial agreements that spell out rules for misconduct and asset division, Rebecca told the judge. The documents show clear breaches of contract and misuse of corporate resources, exposing both parties to possible securities claims. Emma's lawyer tried to argue she signed under pressure, but the 2-page agreement clearly said affairs meant immediate asset transfer to the innocent spouse. Even a first-year law student could read it. Emma signed global settlements that looked like exit packages for fired executives. She kept her personal belongings and a small checking balance, gave up house funds and shared investments, and agreed to non-disclosure terms to prevent future lawsuits or public drama. The business side wrapped up just as neatly. I signed a separation deal that sped up my equity vesting and required cooperation with ongoing internal probes, giving me a clean, no-fault termination and protecting my career. My next move was joining DataGuard Analytics, a smaller legal AI startup that respects regulations and runs a sustainable business instead of chasing endless growth. We build contract risk analysis tools with judge-style explanations so lawyers can see why the system flags certain clauses. Stephen Liu from Summit Ridge led our Series A and brought strict due diligence and oversight that blocks executive misbehavior from day one. The work is far more rewarding than tech law. Real technical challenges instead of chasing marketing metrics and buyout valuations. My nights are calm now. No late-night texts demanding instant replies. No fake social events disguised as networking. No family dinners hijacked by talk of someone else's career. I sip a single glass of 25-year Macallan and answer 0 messages from people who think my time is theirs. The Upper West Side penthouse I'm buying through a new trust shows what I learned about protecting assets and privacy. No joint ownership to create risk, no shared accounts for anyone unfit for fiduciary duty, and no mortgages with relatives treating relationships like investments. Meanwhile, tech law restructured as expected. The board brought in steady interim CEOs focused on operations and compliance, not media buzz or acquisitions. Pinnacle Capital folded in 2 smaller legal tech firms and took board seats to ensure real oversight. 6 months later, the best news arrived. 3 AM Law 50 firms signed multi-year contracts with DataGuard for our risk platform. We earn real revenue solving real problems, not burning investor cash chasing shaky acquisitions. A year later, my life is lean and clear, like a well-tuned algorithm without extra code. DataGuard closed a clean Series B with Steven and two other VCs who know steady growth beats hype. We sell to major law firms without cutting ethical corners or ignoring rules. On my 38th birthday, true friends came, no networking masks. David brought bottles that weren't 25-year Macallan, but tasted better because the night was honest. We talked about work, sports, books, and movies, normal topics with no need for due diligence. A letter came from Patricia. They're soulmates. Please stop the mortgage games. I sent it to loan servicing and archived it. Marcus later sent one pitching a new consulting gig for disgraced CEO's rebranding failure as leadership transition. I deleted it unopened. I keep one board note from all this. People are assets or liabilities. Read the footnotes, not the headlines. Contracts without enforcement are expensive poetry. Compliance is love with receipts. Walking away is the cleanest hostile takeover of your own life. About that night at my 37th birthday when I said, "You're right, I should be happy for them," and handed over those envelopes. Emma didn't scream because I embarrassed her. She screamed because the terms changed for good, not for her, for me. I stopped being the easy partner taking whatever deal was offered. I became the one who reads every clause, moves assets with purpose, and signs only what I can live with. I learned the most important contract you ever negotiate is how you let others treat you. The best part? I don't need anyone's permission to enforce my boundaries or guard my interests. I just need systems that work and the discipline to use them. My life runs on my own terms now, the only ones that matter.